What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's time for a recap of what went down on last night's crazy, chaotic episode of Teen Mom 2. Do you know how Jade went down to Miami with like 12 different people? Of course, only one out of her posse was able to join her for the surgery, COVID, and so she decided to choose her mom so that Sean can stay behind and watch Chloe. And the night before her surgery, she's just, getting ready and everything. So her mom comes to visit her with the biggest glass of soda I have ever seen in my life. Oh my God. I've heard that American sodas are like the biggest in the world apparently. And like I've seen some pretty big ones while I was down there, but this was just wow. So her mom actually, ironically enough, makes fun of skinny women, claiming that, they eat only water and carrots, as if you have to be dieting to that extreme in order to be skinny, while she holds a literal cup of diabetes. Come on now. So I thought that Jade was seeing Dr. Miami this whole time, but she actually went with someone else for her BBL and Lipo 360. And that was very smart of her. We then get a couple of filler scenes about Ashley and Bar's engagement party. They're like, do we want to have the engagement party? Like we're in the middle of trying to like move and everything. I skipped through those. And then there was another filler scene about Allie getting a new wheelchair that I skipped through as well. So we get back to Jade and she gets out of surgery, but isn't allowed to have her pain meds for at least 1 hour. The pain meds being Percocets, by the way. Something that I did not understand about this was how nobody in her 12-person entourage managed to get her prescription filled while she was in surgery, or even like afterwards. It was like, okay, well, if her mom and her dad are going to be there at the hospital, driving her back home, which takes what, like 10, 20 minutes or something like that, why would somebody else not be charged with picking up the prescription for her, right? Like, why would like her friend not be charged with it? Why would Brianna and Shirley not be charged with it? Because I get that Sean is at home with the baby, but like she had so many other people to choose from at this point that it made no sense that she was even in this situation. And her mom was acting really strange, you guys. It was really weird to me that she claimed that she couldn't get like the Percocets that she needed for like the prescription nearby because of all of the surgery clinics. And I was like, do Percocets like go out of stock like that? Like, like their clothes or something? Like, can they not be mixed? Like, I really don't understand it. But then something else that was quite weird was that she said because of all the plastic surgery clinics, which was very weird. It's like, okay, well, these clinics didn't just spring up because Jade decided to get a BBL on Teen Mom 2. They'd always been there. So you would think that all of the pharmacies in the area would have a level of quote unquote stock that is adapted to, the consistent amount of demand that they have based on them being around plastic surgery clinics, right? I personally think that she just, I don't know, like she seems like she doesn't think like linearly, like plan ahead or anything like that. So she just did not think to go and get the prescription filled while Jade was in surgery. Back in California, Bar and Ashley find a home to rent and they had to pay a year's cost in advance. And Ashley's explanation for it was really weird. She goes, it's very rare that you find a brand new house that goes out for rent. No, that's not true. Many houses and many apartments that are brand new go up for rent. A lot of people just buy these things with the sole purpose of renting them out. They never live in them. And so, she's like, the owner was very skeptical. And so he or she or they or whatever had us pay our rent a year in advance. And I'm like, well, what are they skeptical for? They're the one who put it up on the market. So why are they skeptical to the point where they need you to pay a year in advance? Like that set off a lot of like the landlord alarm bells in my head. The only reason why you would get someone that I'm aware of to pay you months or years in advance or whatever, a year in advance, is because either their credit history is like short or shaky or something like that, or their debt to income ratio is not what you would normally be comfortable with. So, her explanation there did not sit right with me. Anyway, back in West Virginia, Preaching Ass Leah wants to host a segment on why a wheelchair is useful for Allie. Again, I skipped it. Leah, for a long time, you were campaigning to get the wheelchair, which was great and everything, but you were not even having this girl use it. So don't, come back now and play expert for me. I am over it. Back in Miami again, Brianna and her friend Shirley visit Jade's house to see how things are going after the surgery. And Sean explains that her mom has been gone for 2 hours and still has not returned with the painkillers that Jade needs. So, the crazy thing is that this woman doesn't even have a cell phone in service. Again, who was planning this? Like, you had time to plan for like 10, 11, 12 people to join you for your surgery, but you could not properly allocate a cell phone to, you couldn't be like, you know what, maybe the person with a cell phone should be the one who gets my medicines for me. Maybe the person who didn't show up 3 hours late to my graduation when she was supposed to bring my daughter so I could walk across the stage with her should not be in charge of my damn pain medication. Like, the whole thing was absolutely ridiculous. Like, you couldn't lend her your phone. Sean couldn't lend her a phone. Like, y'all couldn't put $5 credits on her cell phone. Like, what was going on here? The whole thing is just so, ill-planned, ill-advised. And that is just the way that Jade and her family seems to function. Again, like, she knew her mom was unreliable when she asked her a couple episodes ago, or maybe it was last season, sorry, to bring her daughter to her for the graduation. And then the mom, of course, showed up hours late because she's unreliable, despite all the other people, Sean, her grandma, other people that could have brought her. And now here we are in the same position again. And like a couple episodes ago, they were moving around like thieves in the middle of the night. And, that was chaotic as well. Like, things just, they don't plan. None of these people are that bright in Jade's world. And that's why everything always goes to SHIT. At this point, Sean is incredibly agitated that Christy still has not returned with the pain medication that, Jade so desperately needs. So he calls her and he's scolding her. And Christy's claiming that no pharmacy in the area has them. Sis, these are not Beyonce tickets. They are Percocets. Pharmacies should have Percocets if you have a prescription that needs to be filled. It's weird. Sean explains the situation to the producer and she's like, no, that's BS. Like, this is very generic medication we're talking about. So Brianna is still there. And so she takes the phone from Sean and she tells Christy very calmly, might I add, to just come back and then they'll send someone else to go and get the prescription filled. And then Sean gets the phone again and he tells Christy that instead of driving everywhere, she should be calling ahead, which is a very good idea. But at the same time, remember, he also told us that Christy does not have a phone in service. So that, wouldn't be a great use of time either on her part. She would be sitting there in a parking lot instead of, multitasking. Like, the whole thing is just a mess. Why was he not calling around? Why was Brianna not calling around? Why was Shirley not calling around? Why was her friend's cousin, blah, blah, blah. Like, she brought so many different people. Like, they could have had 6 people calling around to find something at this point. He also says that he doesn't believe that Christy is even looking for the Percocets anymore. He's like, this chick, she's probably gone to get other like recovery things. Like, I don't know, maybe pillows or something like that. Think that she thinks that Jade needs at this point. Like, she's just like that. She's very absent-minded. And so Jade at this point needs help going to the bathroom and Brianna and Sean go to help her. And then Sean is very adamant about the cameras being down. We don't even really see Jade in this state in this house because she didn't want the cameras around her. Apparently it was awful. And so all we get are a bunch of creeper shots, like, from the fences, from the bushes, as like the subtitles go by about what's going on with the Jane's pain and like, using the washroom and stuff like that. At this point, Jade is crying and that was so sad. But again, this is what happens when you send your unreliable mother who has no cell phone service to get you your pain medication when you've got so many other people to put from. This was a 1000% preventable situation. This was not the moment to give your dumb ass mom, a second chance. Like, you're playing with your health at this point, and it just was not smart. You would think that she would have learned her lesson after graduation gate, but I digress. So I skipped through the next 2 scenes again, which were Ashley and Leah's. Ashley and Bar, move out of the house, blah, blah, blah. I don't care, but I have to commend them for moving out in a very organized fashion, unlike Jade and Sean. Remember how they were moving like so chaotically? And then Allie's wheelchair arrived. Congratulations, God bless. But we're back in Miami at this point, where Brianna describes Jade's skin as blue because of the lack of medication. And then she's like talking about how she's got like all these open wounds. And I'm like, I'm not really sure that Percocets are going to close her wounds. You know what I mean? And I'm also not sure that Percocets are going to turn her skin back to her regular color. At that point, it kind of seemed like Jade should have been seen by a professional, or maybe they should have like FaceTime called the doctor or the clinic or something to show them what was going on and ask what could be done and to explain the entire situation. And speaking of, 3 hours later, Larry, the one that Ferris scolded as she was exiting from Teen Mom OG, comes and tells Sean that he should have Jade transported to the hospital since this is just not working out. Nobody knows where Christy is, and nobody knows what time she's going to be coming. And Jade is in so much pain. Remember, your body can only handle so many decibels of pain before you lose consciousness. So it was very important to just make that decision and go ahead and head to the hospital. By the way, you guys, I'm really glad that all of this was shown because, so many times you hear about so many public figures going and getting like these surgeries, like the BBLs and major ones, and, acting like it's all sunshines and daisies and Instagram filters when it's really not. I think that this was a really good representation of what very well could happen to you. And in fact, this is probably one of the better case scenarios because remember, at some point when Brianna and Kale were getting the BBL, 1 in 3,000 women were dying from this surgery. And now, although it's a lot safer, I think it's only 1 in 50,000, it's still a very dangerous surgery nonetheless. By the way, it's the butt part of all of these surgeries that the girls are doing that is so dangerous. Anyway, Brianna then calls 911 and she did a really good job. She was very calm and very descriptive about what it was that was going on. And then the ambulance people come and then she identifies herself and explains the situation. But the ambulance girl was like, wait, well, can you stop rolling? Like, you can't film this. And then the cameras come down and then we get a preview of what's going to go on as we pick back up on this situation next week. And it looks wild, y'all. It looks wild. By the way, I barely noticed that Kale and Larry was not featured at all in the episode. And it really goes to show that maybe, just maybe, she's not as interesting as she thinks she is. This episode was probably the most notable of the entire season, and Homegirl wasn't even in it. What did you guys think about this week's episode of the show? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.